my incredible pleasure to introduce you to Debbie Gullery. Maybe some of you know her, but she's been a good friend for many, many years. And I invited her up today to talk about marriage as a spiritual path, because often we tend to think of, well, you know, we have church on Sunday and then we have marriage and our families and our relationships. But really God's vision is to bring these things together, and so she's going to be addressing that, and she's highly qualified to do so. She's the author of a couple of books. Her latest book is Small Steps for Bigger Love, and you can get the book at the end of the message today. It's a wonderful book just to provide structure for conversations, and she can do this because she has counseled hundreds, I think even, she said hundreds, I think thousands, and couples over time. And one of the things that she's very kind of determined for is to provide premarital counseling. Because I think in that time of engagement and love, you think, oh, everything's going to be so wonderful. And then you get married. And then you have to figure out, well, how do we pay the bills? And, you know, how are we doing things? And so she's dedicated a lot of time and effort and energy to premarital counseling as well. Anyway, the biggest and the best thing about Debbie is she loves to help people, and that comes through in all the work that she does. So please join me in welcoming Debbie Gullery.
It is a pleasure to be here. I've heard so much about Faith Fusion, and I'm thrilled to be here. And I am going to talk about marriage. It's my favorite thing to talk about. So here we go. As Heather was saying, I feel like one of the problems that everybody has in terms of their spiritual life is they separate things. Spiritual life over here and your marriage and family over here. Just out of curiosity, how many people are married in this room? Okay, so this is a good audience to talk about marriage then. Okay, good. The title is Marriage as a Spiritual Practice. So before I go into it, I want to talk a little bit about what is a spiritual practice. What kinds of things do you do as a spiritual practice? Anybody here? Anybody here sort of vaguely spiritual? Just wondering. One vaguely spiritual person. Anyone else kind of spiritual, religious, trying to grow, become a better person? Yeah. So what kinds of things do you do as part of your spiritual practice? What's the purpose of your spiritual practice if you have one? Anybody pray maybe? Okay, so that's a spiritual practice, yeah? Read scripture, God's words, anybody do that? That's a spiritual practice, yeah? Meditate? Okay, so some of you are doing some spiritual practices. So what's the purpose of them?
Get closer to God.
That's one very good purpose, to get closer to God, yeah. That's why we do them. We're not just for the good of not because we're supposed to, but because we want to actually get closer to God. What's the other reason? Or is there another reason?
To become a better person.
Become a better person, exactly. So I would say you guys both get like high marks. Thank you. Because that's what I would say too. The reason we do any of our spiritual practice, no matter what faith we're from, is because we want to get closer to God and we want to become more God-like, right? That's the goal of our lives on earth, is to become better people and to know God and to know God in our lives, okay? So how do we know if we're getting anywhere? We do these things because we want to get closer to God and we want to become more God-like. How do we measure whether we're making any growth or movement? How do we know if it's working? Anybody? How do you know? Yes?
Less damage in our path that we caused.
Okay, I like that. So you know you're getting better because you leave less damage in your wake. Okay, that's one good way to tell. Okay, anyone else? How do you know if you're getting better, more God-like? If you're getting to know God better, how do you know?
You feel more peaceful.
Pardon?
You just feel more peaceful.
Say that again.
You feel more peaceful.
You feel more peaceful. And what did you say?
Same thing.
Same thing. Okay. Anyone else?
Happy.
You feel happier, yeah. What else? Anything more like substantial? It's very vague. Peaceful, happy. What demonstrates our growth? Okay, well, I would venture to say, and as what all of you said, it's not, you can't tell if you're getting stronger, better, healthier, more godlike by the number of hours you put into your spiritual practice, right? You can put a lot of hours in, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're growing. That's not the way we measure our growth. The way we usually measure our growth is if we can tell that we're expanding our capacity for love. That's where we can see the difference, if there is any, you know? That's the purpose, right, of doing these spiritual practices, is to see if we can become more loving people. That's the whole idea. So here's one of my favorite quotes in the whole world. Can't remember who it's from, sorry. But I love this quote. It says, if you want to test your spirituality, fall in love. You can be as spiritual as Buddha when you're by yourself. Isn't that great? Ever had those moments when you just feel like you're so together? I am such a good person. I'm such a loving person. I am so good. I'm praying, I'm doing all these conditions, I'm like amazing. And then you come home and your spouse says something to you, completely pushes your buttons, and you turn into a crazy person. Anybody ever have that experience? Thank you, I didn't think I was the only one. Yeah, so the real measure of our growth is not up here, because I'm guessing that everybody in this room would like to save the world. Anybody love the world here?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Ever notice how sometimes it feels easier to love the world than it is to love a person? Like you're, oh, I'm sorry, I'm moving. Not supposed to move. Sorry, I'm back. So isn't it easier sometimes to just, I love the world and I want to do something for the world. It's you that's driving me crazy. The person that I live with is the one that's where it shows up. That's where we can tell if we're growing or not.
That's right.
It's
right.
it's in our families. Our families are the measure of our spiritual development and our growth. So it's within the four realms of the heart, or within our most important relationships of marriage and family, that our most significant spiritual and emotional growth takes place. Do you agree? River Moon often says that the family is the school of love. What does he mean by that? It's in the family, as a parent and as a spouse, that we have to grow. We get confronted, we get challenged, and we have the deepest joy as parents and as spouses, right? That's where we grow. That's where it all happens. And married love, I feel, is a very unique and special realm of the heart. And it is the place that I seem to have landed in terms of a career and a passion. So I was thinking before about how I ended up in this place, becoming a person that talks about marriage and works with couples and this whole thing. And I'm not the kind of person that has like spiritual experiences. I'm a very sort of practical person, but I have had a few spiritual experiences in my life. And one of them was when I was engaged to be married. And I'm the kind of person that when I want to talk to God, I like to walk and talk. You know what I mean? Like I like to be by the water. I'm a water person. Part of me is Cancer Leo, so I need to be by the water. My heart opens. And that's where I have the best prayer. So I was having a walk and talk with God. And I was actually very excited about getting married, kind of like the person in the music video. I was really looking forward to getting married. I thought my husband was awesome. And I couldn't wait. And I was very excited. And I was talking to God and saying, you know, I feel like I'm being selfish almost by being so excited about getting married. Like, I'm so excited. I hope this is okay. And God actually spoke to me, if you can believe. And he said, you know what? I'm excited too, which was very surprising for me to hear. He said, I'm excited too because there's this whole realm of love that I cannot teach you until you get married. And I was so surprised by that. And it sort of really changed my heart in terms of preparation for getting married. It changed the way I was looking at it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that had a lot to do with sort of the path that I ended up going into, because I felt that was what God was telling me. It's within this realm that I'm going to be able to help you to become a bigger and better person. Also, I came from a divorced family. So my parents divorced when I was quite young. And so I was always wondering, like, how can I do better than my parents did? I don't want to go that way. I want to make a marriage that stays together and that is good and strong and healthy